Welcome to the Perfectly Preserved podcast. I'm your host, Jenny Gomes.
And I'm Anna Cash.
Here we come together to bring you a podcast all about preserving food safely, easily, and dare I say perfectly at home.
We are master food preservers, moms, wives, and we love talking about canning.
Ready to can like a master preserver? Let's get into today's episode. Welcome back to another episode of the Perfectly Preserved podcast. I'm here with my co-host Anna, and I'm Jenny. We are master food preservers, and we're so excited to welcome you to another episode of season 3. Before we get started, it helps us so much. It helps other canners find our show. If you left us a review, please take a second, pause the show, and leave us 5 stars and a little quick. You can even do voice to text written review if that's easier. Unfortunately, it's like really important for shows to have reviews. It helps our show get seen by other listeners, and it helps the world have better canning. Okay, you're going to be helping the world have better canners out there if you share the show. So thank you so much for doing that. Anna and I spend most of our time on Instagram. I'm at The Domestic Wildflower, and Anna is at Smart Home Canning. If you are interested in pressure canning, ask for the Pressure Canning Cookbook anywhere books are sold, written by yours truly. Anna and I both have courses and digital resources available on our websites. Go to smarthomecanning.com or thedomesticwildflower.com to learn more. Today's topic, we are diving into something that felt very California, where I live at the very top of the state, but California nonetheless, for all of its ups and downs and pros and cons. We have a really great Taco Tuesday thing going. It is very common for moms I know to make tacos on Tuesdays for their families. It's a very common theme at restaurants. It's very common. Like, Taco Tuesday is a thing. And when I said it, it seemed like it was a little bit less common in Anna's neck of the woods. But I do love the idea of talking about what you can preserve to make a meal prep day like Taco Tuesday easier and faster. Before we started this episode, Anna and I talked about, okay, what are the things that a person could preserve to help make Taco Tuesday easier. And it's true, if you just made tacos every Tuesday, that might get boring, but it would be easy. It would be easy to not have to think, what are we making for supper? If you're at the stage of life where you just need to know, this is what I'm making for supper every Tuesday, welcome to Taco Tuesdays. Welcome to California. The first item that we wanted to talk about on our list, Anna, pressure canning corn. What could you say about pressure canning a couple jars of corn for your pantry shelf?
Sure. Corn is a pretty easy thing to can. When it's in the height of summer, and corn, I want to say it's like a dozen for $2 or $3 or something. Mm-hmm. That is the perfect time to get corn. Cut it off the cob, can it with a little bit of water and salt, maybe throw a little jalapeno in there if you want it a little spicy. Mm-hmm. I like things a little spicy, not crazy, but a little bit. Mm-hmm. And you pressure can it. Corn is a low acid vegetable, and so you really want to make sure that you're using your pressure canner to hit those the temperatures that are needed to kill the C. botulinum toxin. That's what I would say about corn. I canned corn one year, and I found actually that I like blanching it and then flash freezing it and putting it in my freezer rather than canning it. I think the flavor is a little bit better for my taste. What about you, Jenny? Do you can a lot of corn?
No, but I don't live in a place where we grow a lot of corn. So if you are a corn farmer's daughter, I bet you do know a lot of people that can corn. That's not a row crop or a crop that's as common here. People I know have corn in their gardens, and plenty of people do can it, but I would say my mom would have frozen corn, not canned it. But it certainly is a safe food to pressure can, and it could be a really useful thing to have on your pantry shelf. My kids, this is not or it is taco related, but it's just corn related too. My kids went to a wonderful daycare when they were teeny tiny, and Eileen would put canned corn on top of their tacos and on top of their spaghetti, and the rest of everything else was so mild because she just has like little daycare people. They don't want anything spicy. So my husband and I always talk about canned corn as like what the kids ate at daycare, because she always did it and the kids loved it. because it's mild, it's easy on the tummy, it's kind of sweet. Kids just loved canned corn. Whether you can it in a pressure canner
Aw.
yourself or blanch it and slice it and then put those kernels into a bag and freeze it, either would be really useful additions to your summer lineup of preservation in just thinking about all the ways you can prep for a day like Taco Tuesday. The next item on our list was beans, Anna. How do you do your beans?
Okay, so I do all kinds of beans. I love having an available fiber source dinner.
Mm-hmm.
I think fiber is a very underrated thing in our diet. It's really important for gut health. And so I do red beans, I do garbanzo beans, white beans, great northern beans. I love all types of beans. And I like to add some seasoning to the beans just because life is too short to eat boring food. So I
Mm-hmm.
usually add like chili powder and cumin, maybe some garlic powder, onion powder. And those things don't affect the pH. Don't live with boring beans. If you have something
Mm-hmm.
specific that your family likes, don't be afraid to add a little bit of zhuzh, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So it's great that you talked about boring beans because I also do not want our listeners to eat boring beans. When I was coming up with good ideas for my book, I did want to include a lot of bean focused recipes because you can pressure can beans very well. The results are very tasty. It's very time saving and it is such a frugal ingredient. If you get dried beans, you cannot get a cheaper food. They
Mm-hmm.
are so affordable and they can turn
Yeah.
out so good. Like the cost is so low and the outcome can be so good. They've really suffered
Yes.
a PR problem. They really need to be churched up, I think. People think they're really boring and lame, but they can be really superstar. One unexpected place that I found for good ideas for flavors that we could put together for beans was on the brands. If you buy whatever brand of beans, look on their packaging. They have websites with tons of recipes. And if you grew up in a family that ate two or three different kinds of beans, there's dozens of other bean recipes and profiles and different ways to prepare those beans that you may not have thought of. Several brand websites were excellent in terms of just, oh, that is something I definitely would eat, or that seems like a very good, easy recipe. So, your step in this Taco Tuesday lineup of bean preparation, you would just be pressure canning the beans and probably adding some seasonings, like Anna just explained, either garlic powder, spices. Those are easy add ins. And that can be a place, like if you just look at those websites, just to get your wheels turning as to, okay, so if I take the time to can these beans, then what else will I use them for? But I thought those were like, I couldn't even believe how good the websites were. I was like, why did I not even know that this was a website? They need to be on social media or something. They were great.
And in your cookbook, you have a really great navy bean recipe.
Yep.
Jenny, tell us why navy beans are called that and why they're so
Oh,
great.
so navy beans are white. They're not blue, but they were a staple in the military, and they are for good reason because they're super nutritious. I don't know if they are the most mild tasting, but they are a very mild tasting bean. And on their website, God, was it called Camilla? I'll have to look it up. But they had a white bean chicken chili, and I was like, oh, I need to get a way to make that recipe canning safe, right? So I worked backwards from that. Delicious and so affordable. Beans, man, I'm telling you, they're such a cheap food. And that was just like I worked backwards from their website, and it is a really good recipe. You could certainly look into that.
It's delicious. I made it and my family was like, "Oh, you need to make this more often. It's so good."
Oh, well, thank you. I am glad that you felt that way, but
Yeah.
hopefully we sold you on the beans. Tomatoes is another obvious Taco Tuesday ingredient. Anna is a big proponent of canning diced tomatoes, which I think perfect for this application. Anna, tell us a tiny bit about your canned tomatoes.
Yeah, so when I do diced tomatoes, I know I talk about like spicing things up, but my tomatoes I leave pretty plain.
Hmm.
I'll just do the required citric acid for acidification of my tomatoes, and then I add salt. And then I will use those tomatoes for either fresh pico de gallo other than the tomatoes. There's a restaurant here I don't know if they're still around, but in Salt Lake it was called Chevy's. And it was my husband and I's favorite Mexican place to go to. And they had this salsa that was just killer. And the other, I would say like maybe 5 years ago, I looked up a copycat recipe and they actually used canned diced tomatoes. And so I'm able to make that fresh-ish salsa, and I'll have to look through and see if I can find that recipe, and then I'll share it with our listeners in the show notes. But that's what I use diced tomatoes for. I will also add it to my meat products when I'm sauteing it with whatever spices I'm using. Jenny, do you use tomatoes for that?
I do think that the diced tomatoes is probably the way to go, or even the whole tomatoes, how wholes or halves. That I think would be the most useful for a taco extravaganza. I usually can like a plain tomato sauce because we eat probably more pasta than we do. But that said, I think the diced tomatoes are a good way to go. And then that leads us to say, too, the salsa. So it's a very common, people reach out to us and say, what's the best canning recipe for salsa? And the thing that I think you need to know is that if you can salsa, it is not going to have the same texture as a fresh or pico de gallo or salsa fresca type of texture. And I know, like, my husband personally, he wants the fresh. There's no canned salsa that has the same texture as fresh. I'm not going to achieve that. But by using canned tomatoes, I feel like the rest of the ingredients can still be very crisp. That cilantro could be crisp and very fresh tasting. And then you're still being able to assemble all that when tomatoes are probably out of season potentially. Can the tomatoes in either diced or whole or however you want to can them, but then you could still make that fresh tasting salsa. That's not to say there's still very good salsa recipes. Anna has a good salsa recipe she likes that's canned.
I was going to say it's funny the yin and yang of us because my husband doesn't love a pico, super sharp onion flavors, likes a canned salsa that's cooked and softened and stuff. But it is funny that just how different people are and how different. So if you're like, I want a fresh one, do a fresh one. If you want canned salsa, I do have a little mini course. It's a $10 mini course all about tomatoes, and it give you my world famous salsa recipe.
Perfect. So I think the next thing that we wanted to dive into was meat. So there's many ways that you could go about canning meat that would be seasoned perfectly for Taco Tuesday. And I think we'll start with the first, which I think we would both pass on, which is ground beef. So you can safely pressure can ground beef in a pressure canner. There are many trusted, every cooperative extension website has a good recipe for it. But I think they usually recommend that you brown it first, and pre-browning your meat is called hot pack. And we would definitely say I can't think of an exception other than fish. You would probably be happier with the results if you browned your meat first. But ground beef canned, I just was like, I don't know why I would do this. This is not that much better. And cooking up some hamburgers doesn't take that long. So Anna and I both talked before we pressed record, and we just didn't love pressure canned ground beef. What do you think, Anna?
Yeah, it's just, for me, the flavor isn't very good. The texture is weird. For me, I would skip it, but it's up to you. If you want to give it a try and you love it and your family loves it, do it. But for me, I wasn't a fan. But I did love beef chunks.
Yes.
So beef chunks you can use for stews or some kind of beef taco seasoning beef or whatever, carne asada. Those I would also do hot pack like Jenny was talking about. And what I do is I cut my beef into 1-inch chunks and then I broil it for maybe 3 minutes and really get the top cooked. What you're trying to do really is keep the shape of the meat. So when you do a raw pack, if you just put in chunks of raw meat into a jar and pressure can it, you can do that. But what happens is it kind of congeals into a big blob at the bottom of the jar. If you do a hot pack, all of those pieces stay pretty uniform. They stay apart from each other. And we eat with our eyes first. And for me, I just prefer a hot pack the way it looks in the jar. It looks appetizing, it looks delicious. That's just me personally. What about you, Jenny? Do you do a hot pack? Do you do a raw pack? What do you get?
For red meat, I would only hot pack. When I signed my deal to write my cookbook, that was sincerely my number one concern was how in the world am I going to make this food look good? Because pressure can meat, it's not the prettiest. It it just kind of like
Yeah.
slumps to the bottom of the jar and it just really can look ugly in a hurry. But if you pre-brown your meat, it keeps the shape. It gives a very good flavor. By doing
Yeah.
the chunks of beef, I'll say you can do very good taco meat with buck meat or venison. I've done that a bunch of times. I do that all the time, I'd say. That is very good. And it's like very shredded, right? Like any kind of, it's not carnitas, I mean, because you can that, but it's very similar to that carnitas texture. And you can easily season any of the meats that we're talking about however you would like to season your tacos with your chilies, your cumin, all of your spices that you might prefer. All day long, I would choose a tough cut of beef that you don't necessarily want to like cook in some other way, brown it, and then pressure can it. Amen. That takes a zero
Mm-hmm.
to a hero in no time.
Yep.
It's such a good choice. And then chicken. How do you pressure
Yeah.
can your chicken, Anna?
I do my chicken the same way.
Mm,
So I will cut it into 1 inch chunks. I will broil it for about 2 to 3 minutes, maybe up to, I think, 5 minutes. But you just want to see those juices start to come out and then it shrinks a little and get more in the jar if you do a hot pack. Whereas when you do raw pack, like Jenny said, it kind of shrinks, it kind of goes down into a little chunk. When I do this, this might sound gross to our listeners, but the first time I did chicken, I did a raw pack. And when I pulled it out of the pressure canner, it looked like brains. Like, this is
100%.
not like my kids are gonna, I'm gonna say, go down there and get some chicken. And they're gonna be like, Mom canned brains. Like, this is so disgusting. And they are not gonna want to eat it.
So, as a person that has seen cooked venison brains, I'm going to tell you that's not an exaggeration. It's fine if you eat brain, eat it all day long, but it's not pretty. It's
Sure.
like gray scrambled eggs, if you're wondering. And that's what raw packed meat looks like. I'm not kidding. It's grotesque in appearance, in appearance
I
only.
believe you.
It's not pretty. I'm not a food shamer. I'm not trying to shame anyone who eats
Oh,
whatever they eat. I think food's amazing. I'm such a pro eat whatever you want to eat person, but it's not pretty.
right.
If
Sure.
you care about that, and if you're also trying to like approximate what your family might be used to eating, if you're bringing everyone on board with this preservation jam you've got going on, making it look approximate or close to
Mm-hmm.
what you might get elsewhere is important. So again, we're pro browning,
Yeah.
pro hot pack. The exception to that is fish, and you don't necessarily, or I would say it's far less common for you to hot pack your fish. But do you have anything else to add about meat, Anna?
I think when we talk about meat, it's important to really go over safe food handling practices. So
Mm,
it's important that your meat is chilled. Don't let it sit out on the counter for hours and hours while you're prepping your jars and everything. Make sure that you have cleaned off your work surfaces with either a bleach water solution or some kind of cleaning solution. Um, and then just keep your meat chilled until you're ready to use it and then process it quickly. I don't know if this is a good tip or not, Jenny, but somebody told me he was a hunter and he said that
mm.
his mom always canned their wild game in chunks. She would put like a cut of onion on the top,
Like a
like
ring?
cutting an onion. Yeah, like a 1/2 inch ring. She would put it on the top and then she would pressure can. When they went to open it, she would toss that onion out because it almost like collected some of that gamey flavor. I have never done that, but maybe you could do it this fall and let me know
Report.
how it goes because he was very adamant. He
Sure.
was like, it really took a lot of that gamey flavor out.
So, gamey flavor is something we could talk about all day long. Sometimes wild game tastes quote unquote gamey because the person cooking it is uninitiated and maybe doesn't know how quite to prepare it. I can't say enough good things about
Mm.
Steven Ranella and his brand Meat Eater in terms of learning about how to properly prepare meat so that it has the best chance of tasting delicious, whatever wild thing you are going to prepare and or pressure can. That said,
Cool.
maybe the onion would do it. I have no idea. I've never done that, but I do know that it takes a tough cut of meat. You pick your kind, and it makes it tender. And if you add things
Sure.
like a slice of jalapeno, a scoop of tomato paste, that was my sister-in-law's deal. She would make fajitas, but it would just be
Mm.
hunks of venison, which is like a very concentrated tomato flavor without being too watery, right? And then I think like a teaspoon
Yeah.
of taco seasoning and a clove of garlic or something. That's how she would pressure can her buck meat, and it was very good, very like just a very good flavor. And I think
Yum.
if you are cooking with good ingredients and tenderizing the meat, it's not going to taste like beef, but it's going to taste pretty good. So I think
Yeah.
maybe just stop thinking about
Sure.
gaminess necessarily and think about what am I going to cook with this that is a really great, delicious flavor that will bring out the best. But the onion, I wouldn't say that would be a mistake. That might help. And of course, gaminess also has to do with what has the animal been eating and the age of the animal. So if you happen to know,
Right.
like, this bear was eating on deceased things, okay, that would taste different than a bear that was eating blackberries all summer, right?
Sure.
Or a very, very old buck.
Sure.
If someone gets like a monster deer, well, he's going to be really old. That will taste different than something smaller and younger. So
Yes.
that's my 2 cents on the topic. But it's a good thing to be thinking about because
No, I love it.
more and more people are eating different meats, and there's pressure canning times and information on many different game types. So if you are going to pressure can something, a game animal, I included several times in my book, but if you don't have my book or you're just looking online, your local cooperative extension for wherever that animal came from. If you are doing a moose, search up Alaska's cooperative extension. They will have times for all things moose, and that will guide you in the right direction for the
Mm-hmm.
correct times and give specific information for being aware of how long to cook, how to prepare to protect against potential parasites and creepy crawlies in that meat. Most of the time, the meat that you get
Yes.
will be very healthy and safe, but bear in particular, you got to be careful. That just means you have to cook it thoroughly. But
Mm.
anyway, that's outside my scope of
Yeah.
expertise, but I can definitely encourage you to do your research, the most overused phrase on the internet today, but do a little googly goo on your cooperative extension so that you get the good information on that particular game type if you're pressure canning it. And 2 thumbs up if you make it taco flavoring. That's going to be delicious, probably.
No, I love that. And I appreciate your expertise on the matter. I know you say I'm not an expert, but like you are saying things that I've never heard of. So I
Good.
absolutely appreciate it. And I know our listeners will as well. Because we do live in a society in the United States where we are pretty sheltered from our hunter gatherer roots.
Mm-hmm.
And there are so many varieties of things that you can eat
Yeah.
meat wise that can be just as healthy, just as delicious, but they're very unique and people just don't know how to eat it or process or figure it out. So I applaud you guys for doing that.
Like, even if you're just thinking about eating something from a local farmer that's different than what you would have normally chosen, like rabbit or goat, those are two domestic animals that are growing in popularity in terms of what homesteaders are able to produce for sale for
Mm-hmm.
customers. And those are
Yeah.
meats that can safely be pressure canned. So if you were thinking like, okay, am I going to buy like a whole goat? What am I going to do with the whole thing? How do I preserve that? That's a thing that more and more people are considering. And it's a new thing because your mom probably didn't, or maybe didn't cook or eat those things. So I'm just letting you know, if you are going to cook or preserve something that is new to you, your cooperative extension has you covered with times for pressure canning all those different types of meats.
Perfect. Perfect. And if you are nervous about pressure canning, you absolutely can utilize a freezer as well.
Yeah,
We want
totally.
to make sure that you know that there are other types of preservation besides canning. We are talking a lot about canning, but you can definitely utilize your freezer.
Yeah, I can't say enough good things about a good old freezer. It's amazing. It's amazing that we have that. Can you imagine, like 500 years ago, to think, oh, they'll have this thing in every home that keeps everything super cold all the time. It's amazing. Yeah, we're pretty
For
lucky to
months
have
and
those.
months.
Yes, months and months. The next item on our list for Taco Tuesday was tomatillos and slash green sauce.
I love either a tomatillo salsa, like a green salsa, or a chili verde sauce.
Mm-hmm.
We have somebody that comes up from New Mexico to Utah, and they roast hatch chilies in, I want to say, August or something. And it's just right down the street at my Smith's, and they're outside just roasting these peppers, and it's so amazing. And I love canning those in little 4-ounce jars, and I can just add those to whatever I'm making for Taco Tuesday, whether it's corn or it's the meat or the rice. It just gives it such excellent flavor. And so I want to encourage our listeners to maybe do some of those more specialty peppers in little jars that I love to do, honestly. So I do love tomatillos. I never grow them. They seem to take up quite a bit of space, but I do like them. It just takes a little while to find them around where I live.
So my neighbor grows tomatillos. She's a really wonderful cook and has spent time in Central America. So she's like my go-to for all things Taco Tuesday. And the tomatillos they look like a tiny green tomato wrapped in a paper lantern. And if you're going to be eating them at all, those little paper lanterns have to be torn off. And I would have my little girl on the little chair next to me, and she would help me peel those paper lanterns off the tomatillos. And it's a great job for a kid because you can't do it wrong. There's a lot of them. It's just a fun little papery husk that comes off. And I just think green salsa is delish. I think green, like all things verde, is delicious. And those weird little tomato, are they a cousin of a tomato? I'll include a link in the show notes. Our Oregon State University Extension Office says that tomatillos are a first cousin to the ground cherry and a more distant relative of the tomato. So it's a tart flavor that gets sweeter as it ripens. And it's just a weird little veggie, but they are delish, I think. And even if you don't grow them, you can them in a boiling water canner, and you can pressure can them, and you can make delicious green salsa. There's lots of very good tested recipes using tomatillos, including relish. Yeah, this link has a bunch of really good recipes on it and directions for freezing. So that might be a cool addition to your sauce lineup, either something you preserve yourself or just exploring maybe growing them or trying them out once. It might be fun to try that out if you've never done verde sauce. They're good.
Now, I've seen them in the grocery store, like in the Hispanic food aisle.
So to can whole tomatillos, you obviously remove the husks. You cook them in boiling water until they're tender. Pack hot tomatillos loosely in jars. Acidify each jar with 1 tablespoon bottled lemon juice or lime juice per pint, or 2 tablespoons per quart, or a 1/4 teaspoon citric acid per pint, 1/2 teaspoon per quart. So it's very similar to plain tomatoes. Okay. From sea level to 1,000 feet, you process for 40 minutes. So they're a long haul. I have never canned plain tomatillos personally, but I have done lots of salsa recipes or sauce, tomatillo green, salsa verde. I've done a bunch of different recipes, and I feel like they're all good. I liked all of them. I guess if you like that green salsa verde flavor, they'll probably all be pretty good. And frankly, most of the recipes will be very similar.
I really like the ball canning recipes, salsa verde, out of the Blue Book Guide to Preserving. I think that's the recipe that I used. And it was really good, like you said. This is just a little Anna tip. I like to roast all of the things that are going into that salsa first. Like put them under the broiler, get them really nice and crispy and black, and blend everything up in your blender, and then can them.
Very good idea. That's all I have on my list, Anna. Do you have anything else to add to our Taco Tuesday lineup?
I think that's it for me as well. We covered the fillings of the tacos, and I would just do one little plug, and that is to try and make your own corn tortillas from masa. We took a trip to Guatemala, and we were staying in this hillside Airbnb, and we didn't have a car, and we were stuck there because my in-laws were with us, and they did not really want to go up and down this hillside. And the only thing that was at that house, we brought a little bit of food, but there was a box of masa. And I was like, oh, this is great. All I have to do is add boiling water, let it set for about 10 minutes, and then form tortillas. It was the best tortillas I've ever had. The shape was not the best, but they were so delicious. And you get masa at any grocery store. I think it's pretty popular now. There's lots of different brands. Just try making your own homemade tortillas. It's really fun.
My sister makes hers with sourdough discard, and I also thought they were delicious. It's not something I normally make, but there's recipes out there, and if you've already done all this cooking in advance, then just whipping up the fresh tortillas will be no big deal because you have everything else already prepared. So put that in the back of your minds. I think that's a great cherry on top, Anna. Good job.
Yeah. It's fun. And my kid's using the tortilla press for it. While you're sauteing up your stuff, you can let the hot water, the boiling water, absorb into the masa, and then you can start cranking those out. It's fun.
Love it.
Good job. It's my idea of fun. Maybe not everyone's.
No. If you listen to this podcast, that's your idea of fun. Great. Okay. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us on this very fun episode.
That's our show. We don't want you to miss an episode, so please be sure to subscribe. If you found this episode helpful and informative, please give our show a rating and review. It only takes a few seconds, and it really helps our show grow.
Follow us on social media at Smart Home Canning and at The Domestic Wildflower.
Email your preserving questions to perfectlypreservedpodcast@gmail.com, and we will do our best to answer your questions on the show.
Thanks so much for listening. Stay tuned for our next episode, released every week.